Hi, welcome to What the Flick. It must be a big week. We all got our asses in here at the same time. Woohoo! It's also the future.
We came for Blade Runner, but we stayed for the Florida Project.
And My Little Pony, the motion picture. So we're gonna talk about Blade Runner 2049. This is a spoiler-free review. We're going to have a spoiler talk totally separately. Please click on that too. We're also gonna talk about the original Blade Runner in its various incarnations, but first we're gonna talk about the new one. Alonzo, wherever you are.
Okay, so this is the non-spoiler synopsis. Ryan Gosling is a Blade Runner.
Oh, nice.
You're a cop. I had your job once.
Things were simpler then.
What do you want?
I want to ask you some questions. What happened?
I covered my tracks, scrambled the records. We were being hunted.
By who?
They know you're here.
There's a shocking lack of running blades in this movie.
Open-handed running. I don't know how much running.
Is that what Tom Cruise does? Blade running?
Yes, that's what it's an Olympic sport. So this is beautiful. You and I are having a brief discussion about this beforehand. Like, I love this from a technical perspective. I was wowed, I was dazzled, I was never bored.
Who shot it, Christine?
Roger Deakins. This time, Roger Deakins will finally get his Oscar after his 14 previous nominations with nothing. Snubbed. So this should be
Susan Lucci.
He is the Susan Lucci of cinematography. So
that's a very bold prediction to call cinematographer in early October.
I feel okay about this.
Right.
I think he's overdue. I mean,
if you want to make a bet, I'll take the field.
Warner Brothers got one for Mad Max Fury Road a couple years ago.
Right, this kind of movie.
The great John Steele.
I hear you. I'm not saying no. I'm just
no. So I mean, I was never bored. Yes, it is languid.
I do.
It takes its time.
I get everybody else.
All right, stop.
I'm just gonna keep talking, and maybe someone out there in the dark will listen to me.
Go on.
But it does. I mean, afterward, I wasn't moved by it. It does cover a lot of the same thematic territory as the original Blade Runner in terms of the nature of humanity and the nature of memory and what really makes you you, what really gives you an identity, and it's cool looking endlessly. I don't know that I loved it and was moved by it emotionally.
I did love it, and I was moved by it emotionally, and I think I might like it better than the first one. In terms of
which first one?
Yeah, good point. At least in terms of the writing and the ideas behind it. I mean, obviously that first one sort of rewrote the language of visual imagery in movies so much that we're still quoting it, 35 years later.
Dystopian futures.
Exactly.
All
Like they know how to do it. But no, I thought this one really kind of took those ideas and went somewhere else with them, and I really admired the fact that what is on the one hand a big sort of studio franchise sequel reboot, whatever, that they give to somebody like Denis Villeneuve, who is not afraid of silences and stillness and slowness and all the things that are sort of anathema to big budget studio movie making right now. Every second isn't chock-a-block with some sort of sound. Movies now never trust you to like not have something blowing up or not having the score.
Although when the score is the score,
there is some blah.
It is Hans Zimmer blowing
Hans Zimmer is still in blah mode for sure. And then with a few sprinkles of Vangelis in just to kind of keep things connected. But no, I liked the sensory experience of this film. I like the performances. Plot-wise, it's kind of a routine, police investigation in a lot of ways. There's even a scene where Ryan Gosling has to turn in his gun and badge. But I thought there was so much other stuff happening to look at or to listen to or to think about that I didn't mind that the structure was kind of, routine.
Yeah.
I think both of the things you guys say is true. It's technically impressive. I did like the fact that it didn't feel the need to fill every moment with something happening on screen, or as you point out, with some sound. There was silence. When your movie's 2:45, plus 35 minutes for credits. I brought the notes in here. I think there's 18 pages of just the credits.
Wait, it's 2:45 plus credits?
No, it's including the credits. It's 2:44 including credits.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Well, we were in that
I was not in there for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, but we started like 3. All right, whatever. I felt like
it's long.
It's really long. So if you're going to do that, I think your movie needs to move a little better. I was super bored. And I think that I get that it was, I knew I was watching something that met a standard of being good and impressive, right? But man, it is, there's I don't know what the ratio of dystopian to minutes of the length of the movie is, but it was overly dystopian.
Because it's the future.
It was punishing, man. It was punishing, and I thought also that there was I felt a real degree of, because I was psyched, but I felt a real degree of self-importance. Like this movie is taking itself very, very seriously, and it felt very haughty to me. So I liked it because I liked it enough because it's so well done, but it was exhausting, and I wouldn't tell anybody to go see it.
Interesting, because the thing that makes it exhausting for you, I kind of love, like the individual moments, like an establishing shot with absolute silence in just some wasteland, like just took my breath away. And yeah, his willingness to hold a shot, to take his time. I like that a lot. Go ahead, please.
So I think this is a great sci-fi movie. I don't think that this is a legendary sci-fi movie the way Blade Runner finally becomes one, right? And we'll have a whole discussion about the evolution of the first Blade Runner and how it was released and how it eventually catches up to the vision that Scott had. This one, like I said, it's really good, and if anything, I feel like it kind of apes what the first one does in that it's this detective film noir story set in the future rather than in the past. And it does try and bring up some interesting philosophical concepts, which, and we'll get into this in the spoiler review, I feel like have been covered in the last couple of decades better, touching on the same themes, one very, very recently.
Of what, like nature of memory, that kind of thing?
Consciousness or?
Consciousness around artificial intelligence, right? That we've seen in other TV shows, and I'll get into that. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because I thought where they could have done something really interesting, they don't. And what actually was more interesting, the question that was more interesting to me was joy. And the Ryan Gosling's girlfriend character. I liked that a lot because that one ends up, by the end of the story, you actually do end up with some doubt about what that character really may or may not have represented. And it is gorgeous. There's terrific performances. I think everybody that's in this is really good. I think it captures enough of the spirit of kind of that Art Deco style, especially in the clothes that we had seen in the first film, and yet does its own thing. But it's just not quite there. And it is a little long. I think that, for me, actually, the score worked against it. I did not like the score. The first film has this wonderful dreamlike quality to it that the Vangelis score really, really weighs into and really helps escalate. And this one doesn't. This one, I almost felt like the score is trying to give you this level of dread that you've seen in other movies that Zimmer has scored that I don't think belongs in this movie. And that's where it kind of like the tone sometimes doesn't match up with what we're seeing on screen. And I like this a lot, and my score's pretty high, but we're comparing it to one of the, I think, most iconic, best examples of sci-fi that we've ever seen in the movies. And this one's,
I think you got it for
great.
I would say, if you're not a huge sci-fi fan, I don't think you're into this movie.
Because it drags?
I think because it drags and it merely revisits stuff that the first one certainly covered, and as Matt is alluding to, has been substantially covered and covered well in movies and television.
And I think it helps. I think you're actually going to be really well served as to very recently see the original Blade Runner, or at least rewatch it, or reread it or whatever, right? I mean, not necessarily the Philip K. Dick story, because that's not wildly, but it's big departures from the book as far as the first Ridley Scott film is concerned. But I think it would behoove anyone, if you haven't touched on Blade Runner in a long, long time, go back, because there's a lot of stuff in this one that depends on knowledge that you know from the first movie.
Yeah, I watched it the night before, and I'm glad I did, because it had been a while for me.
Maybe that would have, I didn't,
and we talked about that after.
I didn't either. I mean, actually, I watched final cut last night after having
Okay.
seen this. So,
Interesting.
but I'd seen it enough times in my life that I had a basic understanding of what that world's how it works. I think maybe it helps if you go in not expecting it to be like the first one, but maybe sort of having your kind of difficult movie, Jean Dielman hat on, like this is gonna be a long movie and there's gonna be slow stretches, but it's gonna be worth it. Like think of it more like you're seeing Solaris.
But it is a lot like the first one. In terms of like the themes it explores, the philosophical.
No, absolutely. I just mean in terms, but the structure of it is different. The way that Villeneuve tells the story is different than the way Ridley Scott tells the story.
And I think there's I do think there's some great stuff. There are a few moments where, and this is one of the things I love about this movie, is there are things in here we've never seen before, right? I mean, I love that world's future broken Las Vegas, right? Like I would have loved to have seen what that Las Vegas was in its heyday. Right, and just seeing the remnants and wreckage of that is amazing. And there's some great stuff in this. And this is a great movie, but it's not perfect.
And that section finally brings us Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling together, which we can talk about.
Because it's in the trailer.
Because it's on the posters
Yeah, they're
and all that.
that's
that
no
part's
one's
really
pretending
fun.
it's.
They're on promotional
They have
tour
one,
together.
yeah, and that you guys read any interview or watch any interview with the two of them because they are freaking hilarious together. But that part brings an energy, like a jolt that the movie needs to see him on screen again in that role again, to see them playing off of each other. Like that's a much needed moment of like past and future coming together.
I also want to point out, and I'm really mad at Ben for this. I'm really, really upset you did not tell us that Bob was in the movie.
Oh yeah, that dog did look like
It looks
Bob.
like Bob,
There's a dog
yeah.
and it does look like Bob.
It's a good dog.
It was a good dog, yeah. And not the most.
Bob was up for that role.
Not the most protective dog in the world.
They're not always.
Yeah, they're not always. Somebody's coming for you. All right, I'm gonna lie down.
Yeah, one of the best lines of the movie is about the dog. Ask him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I guess there's a lot more we need to talk about in the spoiler section, but I would echo what one of you said, that everyone's great. You said that everyone's great in it. Yeah,
they're
Robin Wright, Ana de Armas. Yeah, everyone's great in it.
And
we
I,
can't talk about it
this is, and look, he's had very few bad movies, but Harrison Ford's a really great actor, man.
Isn't he though?
And I think Ryan Gosling
It's a hot take.
he is.
I definitely want Ryan
Right, no,
Gosling's
yeah.
coat.
It's
Ryan
good.
Gosling's
Bacon
coat was
cheeseburgers.
rad.
He always has good jackets. Like, think about the jacket he wore in
I would like him
Drive.
to do
Yeah.
movies that aren't. I would love to see Harrison Ford get to do movies where he's not just retreading his
Yeah, but he's good at it.
his iconic roles of the past. I mean, he's really good at it. Don't get me wrong.
I want to
He's
do
good
that.
at being Han Solo.
But now that he's been Han Solo again and Indiana Jones again and now Rick Deckard again, it's like, okay, unless we're getting Mosquito Coast 2, like something new, please.
Yeah, or
wanna
like
do it again.
maybe we redo like father. Like let's get him as Spencer Tracy. Like he's the father of the bride.
Oh, there we
You know,
go.
something
Yeah,
like
I think he's reached that.
I'm kind of
point.
disappointed. I don't think we got the Harrison Ford point, right? And now I need to go look up a supercut of Harrison Ford pointing
He
at
gets
things.
to be sufficiently surly though, if you want
Yes.
surliness.
Oh, look, my phone's ringing.
look at
Oh, what a
that.
terrible person I am.
I turned off my ringer. All right,
Sorry.
so as Matt enters his phone, let's do numbers. I'm saying 7.8 is my number. You?
6.1.
8.5. I was blown away, and I think this is a movie where if you're on the fence about it, you should see it in a theater because it really is. The sight and sound of it is never going to be the same at home.
I real quick about my 6.1, and I like wouldn't tell anybody. But like if you're interested in if movies matter to you, right? Well, then you have to see it and and either come in with Alonzo or come in with me or come somewhere in between. But I get that it's worth seeing. It's important and it's incredibly well made. I just don't think they afterwards. I imagine they were all shaking their hands like we executed their plan, and I'd be like, your plan was flawed.
Well, but I will agree. It could probably lose 10 or 15 minutes, and we'd be okay.
My score, by the way, before Ben
Matt's got a
so
number
rudely
too.
interrupted,
Matt's got a
8.
number. Yes, our number is, I didn't do math.
What is it? 8.5.
Alonzo will do this so fast.
I want to mention really fast. We do see it in if you can, the best possible theater experience you can find in wherever part of the world you live. We happen to have
7.6.
Yeah, 7.6. We happen to see it in the Dolby screening room in Burbank, and so to quote myself from our Mother review, my butt was vibrating. It really was. Like when you've got excellent sound design.
Somebody's got a catchphrase.
When you've got, but like when it's almost like a 4D sense around thing. When you've got the excellent sound in the giant screen, find the
those
best
blahs.
theater you can find to go and see it. Anyway, 7.
Find one in smell-o-vision.
Yes, 7.6. It is at 94% on the tomato meter. So now we're also going to do a spoiler talk. So please enjoy that too. Bye.